Good afternoon, Southern California. I'm John Baldwin with John Hart Real Estate, and today is April 1st, 2022. Have an interesting topic for us today. I want to talk about 1031 exchanges and how that will help you build your real estate empire. I want you to be expanding your real estate portfolio. I'm a big believer in real estate as a hedge against inflation, but also I'm a believer in building that long-term generational wealth through real estate. And one of the great tools in commercial real estate in the tax code is something called a 1031 exchange. And there's a very specific reason I want to bring this up. And this is especially important for people who have owned property for more than a decade, usually around 12 years, is when you've run out of depreciation on the asset. And that's why 1031 exchanges can be such a great tool to help you reset your tax basis and start depreciating that asset again. So, let's jump into it. I'm going to pull up the IRS Fact Sheet so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. If you're on my Rumble channel, if you're seeing this on Instagram, go check me out on Rumble because I actually have the visuals on the Rumble channel while it's a little more difficult to get the visuals up on Instagram TV. So check it out, Rumble, JB Baldwin. So check it out. On the IRS fact sheet, what we have is, Section 1031. So that's why it's called a 1031 exchange. It's Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code. And what it is, it's what we call a like-for-like exchange. You need to be exchanging, if it's an income property, you're exchanging it for another income property. If it's an industrial building, it's for another industrial building. So they basically want you to be trading apples for apples and staying in the same kind of asset class. It's just a great tool, but what it lets you do is, let's say you bought a property 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and it was $500,000. And so for 12 years, you're depreciating that asset on your taxes. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, all right, we've run out of depreciation. We need to reset that. And so what you do is you take that asset, you turn around and find a very similar asset so that you can keep the dollar amounts roughly the same, because what the tax codes going to want to do is they want to keep your loan and equity ratio roughly the same. Now you can pay a little bit of tax on the differences, so it doesn't have to be hard and set like this is only what you can expend. There are ways to increase your budget, decrease your budget. You just may be paying tax on that part of it. So, but what we want to do is basically go, all right, there's a property over there that's now 1.5 million. They're both roughly the same. We can take this property that was bought for 500K, slide all that equity, slide that, value over to the other property and start depreciating from that 1.5 million number instead of the 500,000 number, because you've reset your depreciation. So that is a very, very primitive, explain it to me like I'm five sort of explanation of this. But I want to give you the nuts and bolts so you can kind of get the wheels moving in your head like, oh, okay, I think I understand what John's talking about here. So why do we want you to start depreciating? You can write off and balance out some of your income with the depreciation. But if you've run out, if you've owned that asset for long enough and you've run out of depreciation, the best way to reset that is just to do an exchange. And there are some nuts and bolts to how this works though. So let me jump into how the 1031 works. And again, this is the very basic, explain it to me like I'm 5 years old sort of explanation of a 1031. But what you do is, you hire a 1031 company, and there's another key with a 1031 company. Some 1031 companies will just drop that money into a bank account. I don't like that. I think you should have to drop it into an escrow account. That way, that money can't go anywhere without you signing off on it. If it's not in an escrow account, those 1031 companies could move that money without your permission. So I'm a little, careful. I think you need to have a 1031 company that uses an escrow account so that there has to be multiple signatures anytime that money moves. So that's just one little trick of the trade. But part of the process is you hire the 1031 company, and so you never take possession of that money. And by never taking possession of that money, you don't realize the gain in the eyes of the IRS. So you can basically reset your depreciation, and you never realize the gain because you didn't take possession of the money. You just rolled it over into another property. So, but this is a great way for you to basically, make more money, depreciate your asset more. Now, especially with commercial property, there's a lot that you can depreciate. Let's say you've got a big commercial property with multiple giant air conditioning units on the roof or something. Well, each of those air conditioning units can usually be, depreciated. So talk to your tax person, make sure you're doing everything the correct way. But this is a great way that a lot of investors can keep resetting every so often the depreciation to maximize how much they can write off on their taxes and make sure that they are really maximizing their profit. So let's dig into this a little bit more. What qualifies for a like-kind exchange? Both the relinquished property you sell and the replacement property you buy must meet certain requirements. Both properties must be held for use in a trade or business or for investment. Property used primarily for personal use. Again, so you can't use this on your primary residence or a vacation home that you go to all the time, because it wouldn't be an asset that you never take possession of, if that makes sense. So that, again, I'm giving you the explain it like I'm five kind of explanation of this whole thing. But I'm a big believer in building that real estate empire. I think multifamily is the way to go, especially in places like Los Angeles, where there are a lot of renters who are not going to be buying, $1.5 million single family house, but they could definitely pay a solid rent somewhere in Los Angeles. So this is why I'm a big believer in multifamily, especially since if you've got like a 4-unit property and you have 1 unit go vacant, you have 3 other units paying that month, instead of with a single family property, you got a tenant move out, you have a month of vacancy, you may have lost your profit for the year. So that's why I love multifamily. Let's get you into a 1 to 4 unit property and see what we can do. So give me a call, 213-973-3777. This video ran a little longer. We can get into some of the more details of what a 1031 exchange does and how it works. I've got a great 1031 company here in LA that does use an escrow account. So that is a key. As I said, I think an escrow account and not a bank account is vital when doing a 1031, so that your money cannot move without you signing off on it. So give me a call, 213-973-3777. Let's have that consult. Let's see what your strategy is, and let's get your house sold.